Hello, Craig.
It's on you, it's all on me. Can't you see? It's on you, it's all on me. You and me, can't you? It's on you, it's on me.
Hey, Craig. Right or wrong, we don't care. Win or lose, we don't care. We don't care. We don't care. We don't care.
Hello, Jeff.
What's up, buddy?
Good to hear your voice. We didn't think we could make this happen tonight, but here we
I
are.
know.
We did it.
I
I'm very
was
proud of us.
unsure as to whether I would be able. No, I just want you to know, I am doing this with the full blessing of Sarah. She made me promise that I would talk about her at some point on the show, so I am doing this with her full blessing. Sarah had, for listeners out there, Sarah had a little minor surgery today to correct an issue with one of her ears that's been a deal since she was a kid. So turned out well. Everything's good, but I am home on caretaker duty, and I was like, man, Craig is like, we should record a podcast tonight, and I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if I stay up late, and Sarah, maybe she won't sleep. She doesn't always sleep if I don't come to bed, and I was like, she should be resting, and then she was like, yeah, go ahead, but you got to talk about me. All right, well, Sarah,
Yeah.
we have talked about you listeners to the show and our wonderful subscribers and supporters on Slack. You can thank my wife, who is recovering from surgery, for being so generous with my time to record an episode.
Yes. And I hope that surgery works exactly as it was intended.
Yeah.
That would be fucking awesome.
Yeah, I mean, she's been basically deaf in one ear since she was a kid. So this in theory might fix that. So pretty cool.
Yes. And so, yeah, we're doing that. See, on the other hand, I think my wife Amanda would be horrified if I ever mention her at all. And so luckily she doesn't listen. So it doesn't
In
matter.
fact, she's horrified right now that you
She's-
actually said her name.
Yeah, she probably she's like there's multiple walls between us, but she may have here's me.
Yeah.
Up.
Yeah,
She
yeah.
could sense
She's
it.
like, I don't know what just happened, but there's been a disturbance in the force.
All
I
right,
swear to
everyone.
God,
This
something happened.
is you're wondering what's going on. This is episode 224, podcast versus everyone. My name is Craig Powers. With me, as usual, is Jeff Newser, and thank you again to Sarah. And I hope you get better. And Jeff, it was almost a week ago at this point, but still, we got to talk about it because
Yeah.
we put it to the Slack, and we asked, what should we talk about first?
Because we were like,
Realignment
do we talk
for
about the
San Jose
game?
State.
Do we talk about realignment? We haven't even recorded a real show since the Apple Cup either. So it's sort
we
of
just
like,
had their
we had our fun little horse voices
screaming
recap
into a iPhone speaker.
into my iPhone at Marco Polo. But the Slack has spoken, Craig. The Slack has spoken.
Yes. Yeah. I think of the actual votes, we got 3-1 for the San Jose State recap. So we will start with that. And Jeff, I've since watched it and I was following along, but I wasn't watching closely. I was going to now my wife's getting another mention. I was at the Casey Musgraves concert at Climate Pledge Arena with my wife. But I was watching it on my phone occasionally. So I was following along and just follow and just being stressed out about that. I'll say, like, I turn it on, I look at it, they're down 2 touchdowns at the start of the fourth. I'm like, crap. But then they scored right away. I was like, all right. And then, but next time I'm looking, they're taking the lead. I'm like, what the heck's going on? And then as the concert ends, I cannot this is still regulation. I couldn't believe that the show, like the concert ended before the game did.
It
I-
was the longest game.
It was
It was
already long.
insane.
If that ended in regulation, it was already a crazy long game.
Yes.
But I'm walking out. We're walking out. And like I stop, go to the bathroom. Like as I'm going to the bathroom, San Jose State scores the 4th and 10 touchdown, and I'm like,
yes.
I come out and I'm like, Amanda and I mean, we're on a high. The concert was great. Casey Musgraves was amazing, and then I'm like, the Cougs just lost on a 4th down touchdown, like Hail Mary, basically with 26 seconds left. And she's
I mean,
like,
it might as
"Oh."
well have been, right? I mean, he threw it, I don't know, 35 yards or so in the air, and there
was
were
two
3
different-
defenders and 2 receivers.
Yeah.
Like
And
that should have
and
been
the other
super
receiver
easy
tried
defend.
behind it, like also tried to catch the ball. Like they both tried
Yeah,
to
pretty
catch
sure
it.
that was the actual target.
Yeah. But yeah, so I'm just like, we're walking out and I'm like, oh, that sucks. And she's like, concert was fun. Yeah, the concert was fun. And then by the time we get to the concourse, WSU's sitting there lining up for a field goal. And I'm just like watching as we're walking and I'm like holding on to her arm.
You're like, wait a
And
second.
I'm like, he
how
has a
did
chance
this
to
happen?
tie it. And I'm like, he made it. Oh my gosh. And so we're walking back. We walk back to our car. We watch, like, I'm like, look, I have to watch the end of this. I can't drive while it's happening.
Yeah, no,
Like, it's just going to be too crazy.
nope.
And so we watched the end in a random parking lot in like Queen Anne, and and they won. And like, what a crazy ending! Like, and that took forever because the review of one, they get that interception or the turnover right away in overtime or the interception, and you're like, heck yeah, like okay, all we need is a field goal.
Yeah, this is
We're
over.
good. And then Dickert took blame for it, but I mean, it was a terrible throw.
Yes. Terrible
They call a
decision.
pass to try to, just make the. I think they only wanted a few yards. They just wanted a first down, make the field goal easier. But Mateer kind of does something he has done. Is it bad footwork on a throw to the corner? Pulled the string. He's pulled on a lot. I think 3 of his interceptions this year, I can distinctly he pulls the string on it.
Yep.
And he does this easy interception for San Jose State, and we are all back to where we started again. And then they go score WSU pretty easily. And that 2-point conversion, just the encapsulation of John Mateer in this game, like amazing plays with his arm, really bad interceptions, but also amazing plays with his feet, over 500 yards. And that 2-point conversion was, how many quarterbacks can do that?
Not many.
Not many. That was insane. Like, he did not have that great of an angle when he took off.
No.
And he took a massive hit at the goal line, before he could try to stretch out and hit the pylon, but he had the wherewithal to hit the pylon, which, as they detailed on the broadcast, means you can, which I love that line. I think it was JB Long. He said it can extend from here to the Coug. Now, obviously, we know that where that line is, it would go directly to the Coug.
And where the Coug is, like, yeah,
but
but
whatever.
point taken,
It was a
JB.
great
Point
line.
taken.
It was a great line. Anyway.
I agree.
And honestly, I didn't know that rule. Did you? I did not know that
Yeah.
rule. I didn't know if you.
Yeah,
I
I
didn't
did.
know
I
if you
did.
touched. I did not know if you touched the pylon that it extended out. I thought you had to go inside of the pylon or touch
Yeah,
the
I
pylon
think-
with the football. I thought the football
I
had to
don't
go inside the pylon.
We should probably get our friend Jesse Casino, to be the interpreter here for us. But my understanding is that the rule is actually a little bit different in college and the NFL. That
Okay.
in the NFL, if you touch the pylon, then it's out or something, but in college it's not, or whatever. Anyway, yeah, he got in. I don't know, I don't know how
That was
the
a
official
long
missed
review.
it. Yeah, I don't know how he missed it in the first place. Well, and the longer the review goes on, the more you're like, it's okay, this is probably not going to go in our favor, right? Like, They're looking at it, and everybody knows, and anybody who listens to this show and reads the newsletter or hangs out on Slack, they know how I feel about reviews. They know how I feel about replay. I figured that wasn't going to go great, but in the end, they did call it. I was a little surprised because I don't know, if I was a San Jose State fan, I would feel pretty hard done by it, because it just doesn't. To me, it doesn't look super obvious. Like, I think you can look at it and go, yes, I think he was in. I'm pretty sure he was in. In fact, I'm almost positive he was in. But I don't know that there's anything there where you're like, oh yeah, he definitely was in. But they called it anyway, which I am, of course, I've always said replay is good. And we got the 2 points. And then, of course, that sets up, San Jose State needing to go for a 2-pointer on their next one to get the tie. And then, after that, it's, in the hands of the defense to make one more play. They had a play from, obviously you mentioned the 4th and 10 play where they needed one play and they didn't get it. And so now they need one play on this 2-pointer. And, you're kind of thinking they've been running these 2-point plays or 2-point-ish plays where they just need a handful of yards kind of all game. And they've been converting. So you just kind of think like, well, shit, here we go again. And then, I haven't watched it that close to kind of figure out exactly what happened. Like everybody else who's a casual fan, I'm ball watching, right? So I'm watching the quarterback. I'm watching, kind of what's happening in the pocket. But I assume that our secondary or linebackers or whatever, disrupted whatever it was that they were trying to do it. And maybe that was just a function of, there comes a point in the game where you can't, you've exhausted kind of your quote unquote, 2-yard plays or 3rd and 3 passing plays or whatever. And maybe that's part of the deal, but Brown just didn't really have anywhere to go with the ball. He kind of backed up, tried to, whatever,
Yep.
and everybody saw it. So, ended up in trouble. They, recover it and they win. And I just, so you're watching in some, rando parking lot on Capitol Hill. I was at some friend's house, so get to, bring up Sarah in the podcast again. We were over at a friend's house, doing some letter writing for campaigns. It's actually like a really cool deal. Side note, really cool deal. You download these pages and you write on there encouraging people to vote, right? So it's like this thing of like likely voters. And then you write why you vote. You're like, I vote because I hope you'll vote too. And that's it. No like political messaging or anything, and you mail them out. So we were filling out these things. I did my duty during halftime. Like I filled out but I wasn't going to go. Sarah was like, are you going to go? I'm like, I don't know, man. The Cougs are on. I got to watch the Cougs. And she, calls up our friends and is like, can you get the game on while we're there? And they're like, oh yeah, no problem. We'll put the game on. So we're watching the game. And then as it's like going on and for most of the night, I'm the one watching the game. My kids are watching the game. That's about it. Right. As the game's going on, more and more people, it's like this house party, basically more and more people kind of trickling in, to watch it as it's getting crazier. And then some people they tapped out because it was just too late. But by the very end, there was about still 10 of us left in the room. And we're just, and it's 11:30, we're over at these people's houses and I'm like, God bless them. This is like one hell of an imposition. Like, I'm just like, I can't leave, and they're like, we understand. It's okay. Don't worry about it. It's fine. I kept apologizing. Was supposed to be over
like an hour
I know this
ago.
game should have been over an hour and a half ago, but it's, for some reason it's still going. And, they were like, oh, don't worry. It's fine. And I really do think they meant it. They are wonderful, genuine friends. But also they're not huge football fans and they were definitely, humoring me. So I'm very thankful for that. And I'm very thankful, for our friends. Cause if I had missed that, I'm not sure what I would have done. So yeah, that was my story of the night. I don't know if anybody else has great stories of a game lasting till damn near midnight.
Watching truly one of the most insane
yes.
Like Cougar football games.
It's
up there, and we've had a few of these insane ones like it in a not too distant memory that did not go our way.
I was gonna say, we usually lose them.
Yeah, and it sure seemed like they were going to. And I gotta say, Dickert said it too. I mean, when I was watching, following along, and what the bits could watch and stuff, I'm like, yeah, like coaching staff's getting out coached.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
San Jose State came to play, and they knew exactly how to beat us. They were killing us with these crossing routes, and then they just made a couple. They just had their receivers just made some incredible plays at times as well. But they were just killing us underneath, beating us, getting to 3rd and 6 and just like killing us on 3rd and 6, or just, they're running back at chunk, to the house. They must have saw something there too. Like we knew they didn't run that much, but they ran some early and it worked out really well. Obviously they had that surprise onside kick that completely took Wazoo off guard. At 15, they had so much cushion. The guys are 20 yards back, and they got it so easily. We were watching, and like that had to have been not 10 yards, right? Like how could they have gotten it with that much space? And it was just because our guys had no clue, like no inclination that they would do that. And that's like one of the most effective, because it wasn't even like it was a good kick, but it really, if WSU was standing a couple yards closer, it would have been easily recovered. But they just totally took them off guard. And then, but huge on that to hold them to a field goal, obviously. And honestly, it seemed like after that, WSU took control and they were going to run away with it. They got 2 touchdowns, 21-10. They got a turnover in San Jose State territory on a fumbled return, and it looked like, all right, they're gonna go punch it in, and they're gonna put this away. They're held to a field goal try. One of the absolute worst trick plays I've ever seen. It's fourth and 11.
Yeah, that's
you run
a play
a pitch
you do
play
when you need like
to
that's
the
a play
kicker.
you do when you need like 3 yards, maybe.
Yeah,
Right? Like that's
A
not
pitch
not
play
a
to
play
the
where you're
kicker.
trying to get, because and the kicker's catching the ball in that pitch play. The kicker's catching the ball like, I don't know, 7-8 yards behind the line of scrimmage at least, right?
a kicker.
And then you need another 11 yards beyond that. And so you're asking your kicker, and by the way, not only your kicker, but also your punter right now. Like,
Yeah, and you
like,
want him
this
to
is
get
like-
hit?
yeah, it's like
And
your
you're-
only guy. And he's gonna, he's gonna get hit because he's got to run 20 yards.
20
Like, I
yards.
don't know,
He's
man.
definitely going to run 20 yards without going out of bounds, like, and just straight out of bounds. Like, you're not going to fool San Jose State like that.
Yeah,
And
I think
yeah.
I honestly think what happened. I think, remember how like Pete Carroll used to say that he would get a little hormonal with his 4th down calls. Like
Yeah.
that was kind of his thing. He'd be like, I got a little hormonal there. I think that's what happened with Jake Dickert there, because up until that point, now we were winning, but San Jose State's offense had some success, and I don't know that there was necessarily any bad blood between Jake Dickert and San Jose State's offensive coordinator Craig Stutzman, who was one of the guys who left with Rolovich.
Yep.
So I don't know that there's any bad blood there necessarily, but it would not shock me in the slightest if there was a thought of, well, hey, watch this, like maybe he was a little too eager to go to the well on that one. And then obviously it turned out badly, and that's the game. Obviously the game didn't have to turn on that spot, but it did. And all of a sudden, you're looking at going up, 24-10 or whatever, or 28-10, depending on kind of how that shakes out. And then all of a sudden they go down and score, and it's 21-17, right?
Yep.
That was kind of a shitty turn of events there.
Yeah, really. Yep. And then luckily they were able to scrape together a field goal drive to end it, because then
Came in pretty handy.
Yeah, it came in pretty handy, because by the time they scored again, San Jose State had built a 14-point lead, 21-0 third quarter. The third quarter makes its return.
Yeah.
Just an absolute turd of a quarter. could not stop San Jose State.
Yeah. Maybe one of the
Um,
turdiest.
Yeah, and it looked like it may have, been the end of this nice run at the start of the year. Like, wow, okay, we coming down off that high of Texas Tech and then beating Washington. Short week. It did get to us. It's happening.
Yeah.
But man, they fought back. Pretty quick drive, like which was great. Like I think it was a 1.5-minute drive. That finished with Kyle Williams touchdown. John Mateer immediately runs for like 50 yards, like on I think of the first or second play of the drive.
Yeah.
Like a run that only John Mateer does.
Right.
It's insane. Like his ability once he it's not even when he'll shed a sack, and then if he gets to that linebacker level, it's like good luck, guys. Because it's not only that he has jukes and he's got great vision, and he knows that outside is available, especially in if the team's in pass coverage and you've run the corners down the sideline. He knows that outside's available. He'll bounce outside. He generally breaks a tackle or two, and it's just so impressive. And they needed that so bad. The crowd needed that. The team needed it. And then like 3 plays later, they're in the end zone. It's game on, game back on.
Yep.
And then obviously they scored twice more. They scored twice more. I was watching. I had it at Casey Musgraves. I was watching. Had it on my phone. The tying touchdown to Meredith.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hell yeah. And this guy is standing next to me, like behind his girlfriend. He looks over. He's watching. He's like, oh, they scored? I'm like, yeah. He's like, this extra point aside? I'm like, yeah. And we're watching. He goes, and I'm just like, he missed it. He's like, he missed the extra point? And I'm like, he's like, did they just lose on that? I'm like, no, there's like 6.5 minutes left, but it sure does feel like it, though. Sure does feel like he lost on it.
Sure does feel like it.
But then right away they get the ball back, score another touchdown, which looked like, I guess Meredith wasn't in. I don't know. Like
he looked very in, and then we sort of went hurry up ish. I guess maybe trying to take him by surprise or something, but whatever. It worked out. Dylan Payne.
Yeah, Dylan Payne. Next play, touchdown. Now you have the lead.
Yep.
And then you fail the 2-point conversion. So now you've set yourself 2 points
because of
back.
course you do. Yep, of course you do.
You're 2 points back, and that really mattered.
Yes, it did.
San Jose State goes down, drives down the field. It looks like we got them. They're not even to the red zone. It's 4th and 10. All right, just need to stop this one play.
Yep.
They flush Emmett Brown. Shout out to Emmett Brown. WSU must have had the deepest goddamn quarterback room in the country last year.
Yeah.
Like looking at what Cam Ward, Emmett Brown, and John Mateer are doing this year. They're like 3 of the best quarterbacks in the country.
Yep.
And Emmett Brown rolls out, all 5'10" of him, and makes just I thought he was toast.
Yeah.
And he just makes an incredible throw to the back of the end zone. His 2 big receivers are back there. Dude takes an absolute shot. I was hoping he dropped it. I was like, please drop.
Yeah, he did not.
And then
Jerk.
26 seconds left. Now, obviously, we went through this. It looked like they had lost. And then they get the 2-point conversion, and you're like, if we had made the extra point and then made the next extra point, the game would be tied right now because they would have also not went. Well, they might have went for 2. Do you think they would have went for 2 to win?
Oh, that's a great question. I doubt it. But you never know. They might have. They might have.
But
in which case, in that alternate reality, then Dean Janikowski is set up for a game winner instead of sending it to overtime.
But yeah, it's different. But on that, the game tying drive, I guess, I cannot believe that Kyle Williams got that open.
Yeah.
That far down.
So I mean, I kind of watched it over and over, and I'm certainly no X's and O's, film junkie guy, but I do have some basic understanding of coverages, and it sure looked like for some either San Jose State called some variation of cover 2, which is where you have 2 deep safeties responsible for half the field each. Now, it's a commonly used defense. It is, there's all sorts of things about it that are useful and excellent and all of those sorts of things, but it's one weakness for anybody who's ever played, a football video game. Like there's like a little spot, down the sideline between the corner who's kind of, holding a little zone in front of that area, and then the safety is going to be, maybe kind of on the hashes or a little farther over. There's definitely a little pocket there behind the corner in front of the safety where you can throw to the sideline if you can get there. And again, I don't know what was going on. Maybe the corner just didn't get deep enough, but it sure looked like the corner was, playing some kind of underneath, basically, I guess anticipating that WSU would try and, get a quick, 10, 15 yards underneath to the sideline, and that they wouldn't try and get a huge chunk. Well, WSU, I guess, and maybe you'd probably never get Ben Arbuckle to tell the truth on this unless it was, beers or, night with Cougar football or something. But like, it sure looked like WSU sort of anticipated that that's the coverage they would play, because Kyle Williams' route, it was just a little, I don't know what you call it, corner route, flag route, whatever, that just kind of straight ahead and, off toward the sideline, kind of diagonally. And he went right in that pocket. Mateer fired it right in there. And it was just like, holy shit. How did that happen? I don't know what San Jose State was thinking. I don't know if that was just one where Arbuckle won the chess match, anticipating what the coverage was going to be. But yeah, that little pocket was open. The safety couldn't get there fast enough. And WSU's best receiver finds himself pretty open. Now, it did take a good throw. Like let's not undersell the throw either.
That's because
John Mateer takes a lot of heat.
It's 35 yards down the field, to the corner.
Yep.
And you have to drop it in between. Right. You have to drop it in between 2 defensive backs, and he hit it.
And he did.
And then he made a great scramble, knowing they had timeouts on the next play.
I mean, if he doesn't get that scramble, right? Like that 8 yards made the difference, right? Like that's
if he throws the ball away there, it's probably Hail Mary the next play.
Mm-hmm.
And I
mean, maybe you try and run a real quick hitter.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're probably in that range or thinking about it. And yeah, it was just, gutsy all around. Janikowski hitting the field goal was so cool.
That was so cool. Like what a redemption moment.
Yeah. I mean, he's been bad. We all know he's been bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not just the missed PAT. Like he's been bad since November.
So he absolutely drilled that field goal too.
He did. And he seems like a legit good guy. And you want your guys to see success no matter what. But, Janikowski's a guy who's out here raising money for cancer and stuff with the kicks that he makes. Like, you want to see guys succeed, and you really want to see guys like that succeed. And so for him to succeed in that spot was, super duper cool. And of course they go on to win it in overtime. Obviously you were kind of only watching kind of here and there, but like what stood out to you as far as, takeaways go? Like just like not football takeaways, but you know what I mean? Like takeaways, what can we take from this game going forward that you think is noteworthy?
One, WSU's offense is legit, especially what you've seen other teams do against UW.
Yep.
WSU's offense is legit, or not do exactly.
Yeah. And also what people did not do against San Jose State until
exactly. And it was mostly if WSU made a mistake, they would get stopped. I will say also, this is just a little thing, but we were so worried. We've said it over and over again. hiring a defensive coach and all the stereotypical things that come along with that, and losing. WSU went for it on 4th and 1 from their own 34 to start the game.
Yeah. Yep.
And because they knew they could get it, and they did. They got it easy, and that was awesome. And if they don't do that, who knows what happens in this game? I don't know.
Yeah.
If San Jose gets that stop, how fired up are they? If WSU punts there. So yeah, that's and also offensive line. They have the confidence. The offensive line is so light years above what it was last year. But I also. One, we still have a young coach. There was a more experienced coach on the other sideline.
Yep.
He got out-coached.
Yep.
We have a 28-year-old offensive coordinator. It's an amazing offense. He did amazing. But the defense, they got exposed. Yeah. Also, one big thing, we're 4-0, but we are not good. And San Jose State looks pretty good.
Yeah.
What's the receiver's name? Nick
Nash.
Nick Nash. He is legit, dude.
Yes, he is.
He is so good. He's an NFL guy. He's so good. Emmett Brown is slinging it. That offense is legit. You would have hoped, though, WSU's I guess is that I don't think that necessarily was are they that much better than UW's talent? Why UW talent wise is more talented than San Jose State's offense?
Yeah.
But so my takeaway is the defense especially does not have the talent to take anyone lightly. And
yeah, I mean, I think that's
and that is, I mean, we knew that against Portland State, but it was confirmed in this game, and that's, and I hope that Dickert said he says a lot of learns, which kind of drives me nuts, but it's such a coach thing.
Yes.
You got a lot of learns from this. It's you could say learnings,
yeah, or a lot of things we can learn from.
A lot of things, whatever. It's a coach thing.
Yeah.
A learns.
Yeah,
it's a learn. But it's folksy, whatever. But he said we got a lot of learns from this, and he said it right away in the post game interview, and he repeated that again, and he repeatedly said we got out coach. So it was nice that they didn't exactly play their best, especially on defense and on offense either. They made some bad plays on offense too. They just got a ton of chances and they converted most of them. But they had a lot to learn, and I hope that they do learn something, because obviously it gets a lot harder this week, and the next Fresno actually looks better than we thought. So this is the thick of the schedule right now. And we didn't know, I mean, we knew the start of the season, but it's literally it's become now these 5 games are really the season.
Yeah.
It's
in so
San
many
Jose
ways.
State looks pretty good. Boise State is a top 25 team, I think, through and through. And Fresno might be a top 50 team that you're going to go play on the road. And so that this is a real tough stretch. They've gotten 4 of them, but the fact that I would say they've still made mistakes, things to learn from in every game. Is even the Apple Cup, there was a lot of missed opportunities. We've seen from stats from Parker, I forget his last name, Stats of War on Twitter, and he has CFB graphs. His stats show basically WSU, he has this thing called echo rate, which is kind of it's scoring it's basically a scoring.
I was gonna say, you sure you want to try and explain it?
It's basically how it's essentially looking at how well you convert scoring opportunities. It's there's more to it than red zone. It's a little more complicated than red zone. But WC's echo rate is real bad, but their offense is really good. They've been leaving points on the field every game. Even they scored 50 4, you felt like they left points on the game. Maybe not against Portland State, but I mean, honestly, it did feel like they left a few on the board against Portland State too. But yeah, like they've like left points on the board in a lot. Definitely in the Apple Cup, definitely against Texas Tech. Like it felt like they left points on the board at times. Definitely even against San Jose State in this like crazy game, felt like they left points on the board at times, and points off the board, whatever. But they seem to like, I don't know. It seems like I love the mentality of this coaching staff, Dicker, that like everyone has to do their job, including me, versus and this is my final takeaway, is that I love how Dicker handled this and the players. And obviously it's easier to handle in a win, but the fact that first thing he says is like, I got out coached. They picked me up. Like, what a message as a leader. And Jeff, you're a teacher, and you know you've done some other leadership opportunities, but like, what does that mean? Like, as a leader, to be like, I messed up, but you guys picked me up. How many bosses do you ever see do that? It's just like, how many CEOs do you see do that? You just don't. Because like they're worried about their own job and how they're perceived. Like it's such a strong message to do that.
When you feel secure in your position, then you're not afraid to admit that you goofed up, right? Like that's what I think you kind of alluded to that, right? You know, you got these people with images to maintain, right? Who are ultimately, you know, actually pretty insecure people, you know, who are afraid of what might or might not happen if they don't, you know, project strength at every second of every day. And, you know, it really does, you know, cut through to your followers when you're willing to say, and there's a tremendous amount of power in being willing to say, hey, I screwed up. I'm sorry. Like I learned that early on as a teacher, you know, like I would say to my class, because I mean, there are few dynamics where the power is as imbalanced as a teacher and a student, right? Like it is, you know, the teacher has a lot of power in that space, you know, can pull a lot of levers to affect a kid, you know, and you're trying to get them to follow you where you want them to go. And, you know, a lot of teachers will, unfortunately, you know, try and do that, you know, just with a stick, right? Like, you know, if you don't, I will, you know, that kind of stuff. And I learned pretty early on in my career the power of saying, hey, I screwed up. I'm sorry. You know, I should have done this differently. I could have done this better. You know, I want to make it right. And I think that's what, you know, Dicker, even more than just saying, you know, I got out coached and these guys picked me up. You know, in the post-game presser, I believe he said, you know, something to the effect of, or it wasn't the post-game presser. It was like on the, I think the rewind video where they had a clip of him in the locker room after the game where he said that again, but said it to the team. And then he followed up with said, I will be better. I will do better. I promise you I will do better. And it's a lot easier to believe someone like that and want to rally around them when they are also willing to say, hey, I'm not perfect and I'm working on getting better just like you. And I'm not going to demand anything out of you that I don't demand out of me. And a lot of coaches or a lot of leaders say that, but don't really walk that, right? Like they'll say, oh, I would never ask anything out of you that I would not do myself. And a lot of times you're like, yes, you would. like we see it all the time. You definitely ask for things that you would not do yourself. And, you know, and then there's other leaders who are like, well, I'm a leader now. I don't have to do that anymore. You know? Dicker definitely believes like a lot of coaches sell the family thing, sell the, hey, it's all love thing. But it's, you know, they're most of the time they're full of shit. I don't think Jake Dicker is full of shit on that at all. Like every piece of evidence we have is that what he is selling about love and companionship and really, you know, do it for the person next to you. Like he's in the middle of that too. And maybe some of that is just being, you know, 41 or whatever he is. But I also think that's just his personality. I think he really is that genuine.
Yeah. And obviously it's been talked about a lot, but I don't think anything shows that more than how all the so many Wazoo players immediately circled Emmett Brown
Yeah.
after his he fumbles the ball to end the game, and they're all just patting him on the head, giving him hugs. Like they could have been celebrating their big win to go to 4-0, but they immediately were like, "This is our friend that plays for their team," but we just watched him have a great game and it ended, but we're going to go try to pick him up. He's not even on their team anymore. And he only played with them 1 year.
2 years. He was there for 2 years.
2 years. Yeah, 2 years. 2 years.
But still,
to not have any animosity for him for transferring or anything, to immediately just be like, it's all love. It's all love. It feels like, this team and obviously the message from the Apple Cup, we haven't really talked about the Apple Cup that much other than that. But when, I can't remember what player he said he gave credit to, Dickert said, but they said they weren't playing because they hated UW. They were playing because they loved each other. They were going to win because they loved each other, not because they hated UW.
Nusi Milani was the guy he credited with that.
And then to even just credit a player for that, to be like, and to be like, and then to take a player-led message and just embrace it and it become part of your overall message. There's just a lot of cool stuff about what Dickert's doing right now. And he did get out-coached in this game. They did they got schooled, and they also made some bad decisions. They also made some good decisions that, on the balance, they eventually won despite getting out-coached. They also have some pretty great playmakers that helped that happen. But it's I don't know. It's fun to have a coach. We talked about this last time. That you can root for, and that you like what he's doing. We were so skeptical of the hire, and obviously we don't know what the results are going to be in the end, but I like the process so far. I just so much like the process, and the way he handled this game was absolutely perfect, and hopefully it'll pay dividends going forward the rest of the season.
Yeah, and I think that whatever difficulty he had and the rest of the staff had in getting the team back up for this one, which is totally normal, right? If we had recorded a show last week, I guarantee we would have spent a pretty fair amount of time talking about the danger of this game, right? I mean, we knew going in that San Jose State was dangerous, and then sure, because they've been not just good this year, but they've been pretty good for a few years now, and replace their successful coach who left with another historically successful coach who, by the way, has pivoted away from the triple option, which is really cool. That's not easy for a lot of guys to
really
do.
Cool. I mean, they're slinging it, man.
Yeah, they're throwing it everywhere. So anyway, just, you put all that together and, it was definitely a trap game, and you're not going to play at your best, for 12 games. It's just not going to happen, I think. But what people need to remember is, the difference between the good teams or the really good teams and the not great teams is, look, Georgia doesn't play at their best every week. Alabama doesn't play at their best every week. But the difference is they are, however many multiple touchdowns better than just about everybody they play. And so if they have an off week, they win by 10 points instead of, 24 points, right? For us, the margins are smaller, obviously. And so when you don't play your best, which they clearly did not for about 3 quarters in this game, did not play their best. But in the fourth quarter they did. I mean, that's the defense came alive. I was looking at, the stats here real quick. San Jose State's team stats by quarter. First quarter, they had 9.7 yards per play average. Second quarter, 5.6. Third quarter, 8.3. So 2 of those quarters were real bad. But the fourth quarter was, they had a total of 125 yards for 5 yards per pop. And now that included the last drive, which had 2 big plays in it. And we haven't talked about this one yet, but the first play that kicked it off was an insane pass and catch from Brown to Hurry. Same guy who got the touchdown. I mean, it was on an absolute dime, indefensible. I mean, the only way you could defend it is if, literally you were stride for stride and the guy had 0 separation, but he didn't have much separation. And
or like
the throw was
maybe
just right
you
on the
kind of
money.
pushed him to the sideline too far so
Yeah.
he could get his feet down or something.
Yeah. I mean, it was just a perfect throw, perfect catch. But that 5 yards per play in the fourth quarter included that play for, 35 yards or whatever it was. And then the touchdown was 20 yards. So, I mean, you're talking 55 yards on 2 plays. Like, truly, the defense buckled down. And that was a thing that I thought was, a really pleasant development. They started getting some pressure on Brown, something they could not do at all early on. And even when they did, it seemed like Brown was just able to, find, the open guy wherever the blitz had come from and complete a pass. And, they really flipped the script. So I think Jeff Schmedding, defensive coordinator, deserves a ton of credit for that as well. And then, the other thing that stood out to me, and I think this is, real key going forward. I mean, John Mateer was not quite at 60% passing, but pretty close in throwing for those 375 yards. He's still, still a bit inconsistent,
390 yards.
as you mentioned. Or sorry, 390 yards. Sorry, I was looking at Emma Brown's stat here. 390 yards, right?
Mike Lee should be proud of that.
Yeah. Darn near 60% passing.
Yeah, 57%.
The 2 interceptions, the second one we already talked about was horrible. The first one, sometimes that's just kind of the cost of doing business, man. You call a play, it's supposed to be there. You make the throw without really, you're not really reading it. You're just throwing it and a guy was there. So, whatever. But, overall, more consistent throwing the ball. And I think that's what really we want to see.
Great throws too. Like, so arm talent throws. Like, what looked like a touchdown, what looked like Meredith's second touchdown that took the lead in the fourth quarter, rolling out to his right, absolute dart.
Yep.
He obviously, his accuracy leaves some to be desired. Like on that 2-point conversion that they missed at the end, he had Kyle open and he threw it behind him. But again, that throw to Kyle at the end of the game was just an absolute dime, and he just has so much talent. And I think it's the footwork just has gotten better and better. And I think his completion percentage is going to get better, and the feet are just there. Like he's such a dangerous player.
Yep. And you just want to see increasing consistency, right? Like, you want to get better and better. And so, where we weren't sure what we had as a passer when he was throwing, 17 passes a game, right? For the first few weeks. But now it's like, okay, now we've seen him throw the ball 46 times and do it effectively against a defense that I think is going to prove to be pretty good. I mean, I think they put up some pretty insane stats against, some pretty bad teams the first few weeks, but you still have to be at a certain level to put up insane stats against bad teams. And I think they're going to be there. Washington, obviously, as you mentioned, their defense looks really, really, really good, and scoring 24 points against them right now is looking like a pretty darn good accomplishment. And if Mateer can be in that, 55% range, 7.5 yards per attempt range, I mean, look, when you combine that with what he can do with the legs are always going to be there, right? Like it's kind of like, in sports, they say defense travels, right? Like you might have a bad day with this or whatever, but the defense is always going to be there. Tony Bennett, Dick Bennett used to preach that. His legs are always going to be there. So the question is, can you get enough out of the arm? And God, in this game, it sure looks like you can. I mean, I don't think I want him throwing the ball 45 times every game, but if he can again be in that 55 to 60% range, thrown for, like 7.5 to 8 yards per attempt, I mean, you've essentially got an offensive juggernaut at that point, because
because he's gonna run the ball 10 to 20 times a game and get 50 to 150 yards rushing or 200 yards rushing, and he's going to make some play with his feet. He's going to score a touchdown with his feet. Like, what a game, man. 111 net yards rushing when you count in the sacks, and 390 yards passing.
500 yards of total offense.
Total offense. This is like NCAA shit. Like
I remember
NCAA
when
like
Marcus
football game
Tuiasosopo did that at Washington. He was like 300 and 200, I think, is how his was
I remember
divvied
that
up.
game.
But still, and I remember everybody losing their shit over that. Well, welcome, John
He could
Mattia.
do it, man. Like he could do it this year.
Yep.
Like especially
Yep.
if you look at the back half of the schedule.
Oh yeah,
He could do that this year.
Yeah.
Like,
and
it doesn't
you're
matter
not
if he's
worried
in
about
the
him getting
game long
hurt
enough.
either. You're not worried
Yeah.
about. He's like a tank, right? Like
I just
you're
knock
not
on
thinking
wood,
like,
man.
oh man, we can't.
Knocking on my desk.
Yeah,
right
I mean,
now and saying that shit.
obviously anybody can get hurt, but I mean, you know, like he's
But
built for contact.
Yeah, he could, you know, not have to always dive for 3 extra yards when he already has his first down. It's fine,
Yes.
John. You don't have to do that.
Yeah, we'd be okay
if you're
with
going
that.
for the first down, yes, do
Yeah.
it. But if you know, anyways, like he's incredible. I cannot believe that we had 2 guys that were backing up Cam Ward in this game last year and combined for over 700 yards passing.
Yes,
and 8 touchdowns, and John added another over 100 yards
Yeah.
rushing and a touchdown.
just like we
Like,
all thought going into the game.
Just like we all thought, man.
This is what was going to happen.
But yeah, we
Definitely
for
not me
really-
picking the under on this game. No, not
Yeah.
me.
No, not you.
Not me.
All right, so that was a lot longer than I expected. But I think we could put a bow on the San Jose State recap. Jeff, San Jose State is a Mountain West team, and they doesn't look like they were ever invited to the conference. They were not one of the teams, but since we last recorded, the Pac-12 has been doing a lot to try to add teams, and you did a nice job recapping it. I think a lot of our listeners already went through it, but obviously this week, Jeff, it has been so crazy watching it unfold, and obviously our Slack, the premium Slack, is just how many messages did you say on what was it,
on Monday?
Tuesday?
Yeah, so on
Monday?
Monday's Armageddon, that was the day that, you know, in about a 6-hour span we had Memphis and Tulane and USF and UTSA affirm that they were staying in the American. We had a report that Gonzaga was joining the Pac-12 as you know, basically with just a basketball team, no football team. Shortly after that, every other reporter on the planet said that's not true. And then within a few hours there, you know, we had potentially turn into you know, Utah State and UNLV and what was going to happen there. And then there was an agreement that there would be the 8 teams that were left were going to stick together and, you know, sign a grant of rights and stick it out. And then suddenly there wasn't, because Utah State came to us. And then all of a sudden UNLV was like, well, maybe we'll keep. There were 1,069 messages posted in the Slack, just in the Pac-12 expansion channel, like from the start of the day till the end of the day. Cause we started the day going, okay, we should know something from, you know, Memphis and Tulane today. And then when it happened, it was like, I mean, none of us could have possibly imagined how crazy that shit was going to get. And it went insane. And, you know, so there was that. And then all of a sudden, okay, so now we got Utah State in the fold. What's going to happen? Well, then Tuesday rolls around and, oh shit, we are suing the Mountain West to try and get out of the poaching penalty that was in that scheduling agreement from last year, where basically the Mountain West said, okay, you can pay us $15 million to schedule a dozen games with us, 6 for each team. Plus, if you try to take any of our teams, you either take them all or you pay, I don't know what it was, $15 million or something per team, in order to take them. And the Pac-12 was like,
around
okay,
10.
10,
Yeah.
something like that, 10 something. Anyway,
Yeah.
whatever it was, like, so I think that's right, because it was like 42 or 43 million is what people were saying the total would be. Okay.
With the 14.
And the Pac-12 was like, but no, I don't think so. And they filed a lawsuit that said, well, this violates antitrust. And of course, most people would be like, but you signed the agreement. How can that be problematic? And then we found out from various lawyers, it doesn't matter if you agreed to it. If it's illegal, it's illegal. And there's some rumblings that the Pac-12 entered into the agreement sort of knowing that it was unenforceable, or believing that it was unenforceable, and that when the time came, they would, be able to potentially get out of it. There
are many people who sign non-compete clauses at their jobs, knowing they're going to have an opportunity to leave, and knowing that technically that non-compete clause would limit what they could do in the next job, or a non-solicitation clause, and then challenge it and win. And so it depends obviously the state you're in. But that's kind of a similar, on a personal level, it's the same thing, but they're basically saying, I've seen, I've followed the internet lawyers, and they say, hey, it's possible they can win. They're they raise a lot of really good points, and this is a case that probably is a lot stronger than a lot of people think. So there was that, and then yesterday reports started surfacing that UNLV would probably stick with the Mountain West because of a $20 million bribe / retention. Did we mention
bonus.
Utah State?
Right. Oh yeah, Utah State joined us. That was so while we were waiting. Utah State decides to join us, which really, really fucks everything up for the Mountain West. Now they're super desperate, and they decide to take the fees that we're going to pay them, not from the poaching fees, but just the exit fees, which are very likely going to stand up in court, and if they get challenged. But
I don't even think they
decided, okay, we're gonna give we're gonna give a quarter of it to UNLV to keep them from going to the Pac-12. We're gonna give a quarter, and this is like $80 some million. We're gonna give a quarter of that to Air Force to keep them from going to the American, and then we're gonna just give everybody else 10%, because nobody really
Hawaii
wanted
5%,
you, and give Hawaii 5% because they're only football. And it's nobody really wanted you, so we're not really worried about you. But here's a little bonus for you, just to wet your whistle. And it is. Look, it's the Pac-12, is taking a lot of shit online for. Maybe some of this also is just a product of you and I and various other folks being just too online, right?
Yeah.
And, we're seeing every little thing on Twitter, and of course Twitter's not the real world, but people are definitely national.
A lot of
national on the Pac-12.
National writers and stuff.
Yeah,
shitting on the Pac-12
for being hypocritical and raiding the Mountain West, and of course these two things are nothing like the other things, because our survival depends on doing this kind of shit. That was not true of the Big Ten. That was not true of the Big 12.
Yeah. We are just trying to exist. They were just trying to chase more money. They're trying to get more money. Yes. WSU obviously trying to get more money, but that's from zero. So
right.
It's a little different.
It's not even close. It's a lot different. And to suggest that they are the same is incredibly disingenuous. And so but WSU is, with the teams they've got, they're doing in Oregon State, the teams they got, man, I think they're doing a pretty damn good job of what they could do.
So when they added those first four teams, we're like, all right, build. And then they were looking at the American teams, which I think we both agree that's not over.
Yeah, definitely not over after that.
If you listen to Memphis' AD today,
he's like, come and get me.
Yeah, he's like, just give me the deal wasn't good. It's like, okay,
he's like, just give me a reason to come. I will come. Give me a reason to come.
And honestly, and you've already done. I know you've done some analysis that I think you're probably planning for the newsletter.
Yeah.
But this conference is head and shoulders above any of the other G5 conferences already, or G6, whatever you want to call it. Already, with the 7 teams they have, and what you said is, I'll let you say it. I don't want to stay your thunder, but what'd you say about adding teams? What'd you say about the only way that
Yeah, I mean,
they could catch
the
up.
only way the American and the Mountain West can catch up. I mean, the gap is large. Like, it's already large. Like, with the 7 teams we've got, we are already firmly in that 5th position, back in the 5th position. Now, we're not at a power conference level in terms of that. There's a pretty substantial gap between us and the ACC, which is the 4th conference in terms of, however you want to measure the strength.
Quality.
It's pretty well ACC, right? But the distance
Historical
from
quality and such.
Yeah. The distance from, the quality of the American to us is basically the distance from us to the Big 12, right? So like that kind of gives you a sense of kind of where we're at. We're kind of halfway between the 3rd Power 4 conference and then sort of the next strongest group of 5 conference. So really the only way that they could essentially make up ground with us is if we take some of their bad teams off their hands. Like that's really what it comes down to. Like if we, now the Mountain West, we're not taking any Mountain West teams because they signed their thing. Everybody got their payday. They signed an 8-year grant of rights agreement, apparently
2032.
Yeah, where UNLV and Air Force got a stipulation that if they get asked by a Power 4 conference to join, then they could go for free. But other than that, it's like a huge exit fee or
Who knows
whatever.
what the exit fee is at this point? It might.
And 8 years. Yeah. And it's like we're not taking any of those teams, but like if we took Hawaii off their hands or Wyoming off their hands or whatever, it's like, like they'd make up some ground that way. It would drag us down a little bit. It would move them up a little bit, but like that's kind of the only thing that can happen here. Now, chances are good. Are we going to land those American teams? I think at this point, Memphis looks like a pretty good bet. I mean, you don't normally hear guys say
and
what
honestly,
he was saying in public.
If you're getting Memphis, like Tulane seems like a pretty good, because they probably would want a travel partner.
Well, and it makes the American weaker. Like that's the thing. Once you start making the other conference weaker, leaving becomes more attractive. I mean, we saw it with the Pac-12, right? I mean, it's the same thing that happened there, where it's like, USC and UCLA leave. Okay, now we got some cracks, right? Makes it easier for Washington and Oregon to bail. Well, once Washington and Oregon to bail, then all of a sudden everybody else is like, well, fuck, every man for themselves or woman or whatever for themselves. And, we're just going to run to the open arms of the Big 12 and we're all left, holding the bag going, wait, what? And Stanford and Cal are like, sure, we'll play basically for free in your conference because we don't know what the hell else we're going to do. And so I think that's kind of what might happen here, with the American. The difference between what we are doing, and really the other difference between what we are doing, other than what we already talked about, and what the Big 10, Big 12, whatever we're doing is, look, the Mountain West is going to keep existing. It's not going to disappear. It's not going anywhere. They still have, 6 full-time members. They still have a 7th football team. They just need to add 2 more full-time members. They will figure out a way to do that. It will be somebody, Texas State or whatever. They will find somebody. They will keep existing. If we get the American, if we get Memphis and Tulane and USF, or just Memphis or just Tulane or whatever, the American is still going to keep existing. These conferences are going to be fine. It's just a matter of, hey, are we positioning ourselves with a conference? And I think this is the goal, right? Positioning ourselves with a conference to make postseason. And let's be honest,
like the Big 12 already like chopped the head off the American.
Yeah.
I
don't know if people remember that, but
that was only 2 years ago. It was
I know,
that long ago.
And and then SMU went to the ACC. Like they've lost the American is lost. They lost Houston. They lost UCF. Who else did they lose? Cincinnati, right? Yeah.
And SMU.
And SMU left for the ACC. So they've lost basically their top 4, right? And no one came freaked out
at the Big 12 for being like terrible for destroying this conference.
How dare you?
But now there's like national writers being like, how dare,
and I will say,
how dare the Pac-12 go ruin these conferences?
Obviously they want us to just accept our relegation like good boys and girls and just take it. And we're like, no, we're not going to do that. And that apparently is pissing a lot of people off. Like, they're just like, I mean, one of the things so this newsletter I'm working on. So by the way, anybody who listens to the podcast, doesn't subscribe to the newsletter, subscribe to the newsletter, podcastversuseveryone.com. Okay. The newsletter I'm working on, I went back and got some tweets, from some of these writers. And one of the ones I put in there was a series of tweets that all came out right around the same time that basically said, I've talked to half a dozen people with the CFP and there's no appetite for expanding the berths and access, even if the Pac-12 is able to put together a pretty good conference or whatever. And I'm just like, dude, that is just like a fucking message, right? They're just sending a message like, hey, you uppity fuckers, you better know your place because, you're rocking the boat right now and y'all need to stay in your lane. And it was like, coincidentally now the Big Ten and the SEC are having like a big summit like next week or something where they're going to talk about issues. And it's like, it probably is coincidental, but it's also like, we're trying to do something and it's in a sport where they do not want you to do things. Like, that's just the reality. Like they will do anything to hold people down, as long as possible. And so I don't know about you, but like, this is just kind of making me, and it certainly feels like just our fans in general, much more emboldened, much more pissed off. Like, I am seeing a level of engagement right now with the football program, with just sort of interest in what's going on that I don't know, man, I haven't seen for a long time. I mean, I've been doing the online thing since 2008.
1,000 comments.
Yeah. I mean, maybe the closest thing is like
comments.
Right in the wake of Mike Leach getting hired is probably the only other time. And but right now people, it's just like righteous anger and indignation. We're just like, wait, you're going to tell us that we're the bad guys and you're going to try and kick us while we're down. You're going to try and hold us back. And I love the way that we're swinging. I love the way that, the conference is. I mean, I even said the other day, I'm like, I'm not sure Kirk Schultz has it in him to really like fight. And then there's a fucking lawsuit. Like, I'm like, oh, sorry, my bad. Obviously you do have that dog in you. I just like it's not ideal. It's never going to be ideal unless we're back in a major conference. But in lieu of that, like, I love what we're doing. It doesn't look good when teams turn you down, but at the same time, I think we're still in a really good position. We have lots of control over our current situation and our future. And I think, that is, even if it hasn't gone perfectly, I think that's like a million times better than just sitting around and waiting and crossing your fingers and hoping an invite to the Big 12 that has not yet come somehow magically materializes, which is, I think, a pretty bad bet.
And I think I've seen this sentiment where it's like, Pac-12 getting turned down by UNLV, Memphis, whatever.
Oh, that looks so bad.
But here's the thing, like, you're not like the Pac-12 is still in a position where they don't have to overpay. For a team. Like, sure, pay those exit fees for these Western teams where like it makes sense geographically and also the brand wise. UNLV was not worth that $25 million to match that. No. They absolutely were not. Now,
it was
like
worth
Boise,
it to the
if it was
West.
Boise, you paid 17, 18 million for the exit fee. That was worth it. Boise adds value. So does Fresno. So does San Diego State. So like even Utah State. Just because Utah State kind of gave you that lifeline too. All the Colorado State, that they have value in their markets, they have value in their brand, they have value in their success. And we basically just took the top like 4 to 5 brands off of.
You took the top half,
the Mountain West.
You took the whole
top half of the
whole
Mountain
top
West,
half.
and now you're also trying to do that. You're trying to grab a couple of the top programs from the American, which will only create a further gap. And you just want to create where basically your conference champions getting that group of 5 auto bid every time.
Because that's where the extra money is, right? Like,
yes,
you're probably not
guaranteed college football playoff money every year.
Yes. by being the best G5, G6, whatever conference, you're not going to see a sizable bump in media distribution. Like you're just like, you'll probably be at the top, but you're talking like 15 million versus 10 million when what you were getting before was 25 or 30 million, right? So like, it's not a meaningful difference. Where the difference can come in is making sure that you're putting a team in that playoff every year or 3 out of 4 years. And then also NCAA tournament units, right? This is going to be a fucking great basketball conference.
Well, especially, we are noted Gonzaga haters.
Yes.
I actually
100%.
would love if they added Gonzaga to this conference. One,
Yes.
it's fun to have
Unfortunately,
a
I have
team
to agree.
It's fun to have a team to hate. We don't have a team to hate in this damn conference. We love Oregon State too much. We're not going to hate them. We're not going to hate. We love all these teams who are coming into the conference. I mean, we will learn to hate Boise State. We are going
I was going to say, we'll probably, I'll bet Boise State will be pretty easy to hate.
Yeah, we will hate Boise State, and that will be fun as hell. Snake River rivalry. Let's go. But right now, I already hate Gonzaga. Throw them in the conference.
Yes,
all these sports. They're like, I just look. Their women's volleyball team is terrible. Hell yeah, watch our volleyball team kick their ass all the time. They're pretty good at women's soccer. They're good at baseball. They have
baseball program is very good.
Their good women's basketball team is good. Their men's basketball team is obviously really good. That you throw in Gonzaga with San Diego State, Colorado State, Boise State with Leon Rice. Hopefully we can keep it going. Oregon State can be good sometimes. Like you get like you have a legit Utah State obviously has had good success basketball. Legit with minimum
Craig with
2,
if
3,
you add Gonzaga
conference.
If you add Gonzaga, you're looking at a conference that's probably like the 4th or 3rd or 5th, somewhere in there, like best conference in the country. Basketball conference. And you're also looking at like 3 to 4 to 5 bids every year. And that's just with the 7 teams you've got now, plus if you add Gonzaga, right? Like you're just talking like the 8 teams you've got now.
If you have Memphis,
that you're thinking of,
Memphis,
right? And you add Memphis, So it's those NCAA tournament units that you get, for each win. They're not nothing. They add up, and if you're getting college football playoff now, right now the distribution's not great for the G5. That deal's up in a couple of years. I think the hope is to come back to the table. I think that's where the CFP message came from. Hey man, don't expect anything more.
They don't want to have to do that.
Yeah, but I think we're going to come back to the table and I think negotiate pretty hard for increased distribution.
If you're sending the team, between now and then, what this starts in 26.
Yeah.
If 26 to 30, your conference sends a team every year.
That's the same argument the Big Ten and the SEC used to get guaranteed increased distribution. They went, we're sending the most teams every year, so we should get more.
And look at this, this as a Wazoo fan, you should be excited.
Yeah.
Because we are where our football program is at this level, we are in contention. If we stay at this level, we are in contention to win this conference every year. And that means we are in contention to go to the college football playoff every year.
Yep.
And how many years were we in contention to win the Pac-12 and go to the college football playoff? Once in the last 20?
Yep.
We
saw there was a ceiling, an artificial ceiling.
Right. But they could put that ceiling on you, but you could be ranked 20th and still make the college football playoff because they have to put that G5 team in.
Yep.
Now, maybe they'll just get rid of that eventually because we rocked the boat too fucking much. But I don't know. Let's
find out.
Burn that bridge when we get there. So I love what they're doing.
Let's find out.
I love that they're not overpaying for programs that don't have value. They're not overpaying for UNLV. Let's be honest. UNLV, you could be like Vegas, but that no one in Vegas watches them.
Nope.
They historically pretty bad football. They have a couple good years. Obviously having some problems now.
Making payroll stuff.
But yeah, there's not a ton of support around that program. Their TV ratings are bad, whatever. But they were kind of like the best of what was left, to be fair.
Sure.
But now they're the best of what is left. It's like, okay, but we're not paying $25 million. You're not adding anything really to a TV contract. You're probably not ever going to generate revenue by going to the college football playoff. You haven't really been that good at basketball for a long time. So you're not really going to generate tournament credits. But you look at a team like Memphis, absolutely could raise and Tulane football wise, they put out some very good football teams that have contended for that G5 spot recently. Obviously, Tulane, very famous college football group of what do they call it? New Year's Six win recently, and all that. And so I hate it for the travel, but sometimes it's just like we gotta do what we gotta do, survive, get that TV contract that they're hoping 10 to 15 million, which would be above what any of the group of 5 teams currently get. But yeah, they need to be, they seem like they're being strategic about how they add teams now. And you can't spend too much money to add the 8th, 9th, 10th team, because there aren't really any teams left that are going to add so much value for you that you're not going to go out there and add like this team that's going to, I think honestly the biggest team they added, and I hate to say it, is Boise. That's the biggest brand that they added. And that was the biggest brand available, to be honest. And there's nothing will match that on what's available. So you just got to be, that's why, obviously they probably kind of lowballed Memphis to start, but it seems like Memphis is still in the game. You could probably kind of meet them halfway and bring them over. And I feel pretty good about that. I like where they're at now. Either that or you add some random team and get an 8th bottom feeder and just maybe add Gonzaga as basketball only, and maybe another basketball only team, and you have a great basketball league. I think they're in a good spot right now. I am not really worried about UNLV not coming on, because I don't think UNLV really added much of anything other than, yes, the every other year trip to UNLV to watch a football game with 20,000 Cougs would have been fun, of course. But I also want that every other year trip to New Orleans. Can we add Tulane? That would be fun.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah. I think, I don't know, nothing that happened this week has really made me sad, because I guess I already accepted where WSU was before.
Yeah.
I know for some people the Big 12 is maybe not calling and all that stuff, and that's sad, but I kind of accepted that a long time ago. And so now I'm just all right, I think they're being smart about how they're approaching this. They have money, but they want to use their money intelligently, because you want to be able to actually earn that money back with how you're spending it. So that's lauded, and I don't know, it's not over. We're going to keep watching this happen for the next whoever knows how long. But yeah, apparently it's good for business, Jeff.
Yeah. I think so. Should we talk about Boise State a little bit? The game?
Let's talk about beer first.
Beer first,
because I'm almost done. I'm pretty much done.
I know we're gonna have to go fast.
Okay. Jeff? What are you drinking?
Well, last week when I thought we were going to record a show, I was at Rainier Growlers kind of perusing. It is fresh hop season, the very beginning of fresh hop season. But so I was looking for a fresh hop beer, trying to think, thematically, something that, might go along with the game or whatever. So what I settled on was the Haze Harvester Fresh Hop Hazy IPA from Bale Breaker, which of course is a noted both Yakima hop farm / brewery, and also run and owned by Huskies. And so I thought that would be just a nice little parting gift for them. I'd throw them a couple of couple of bucks their way and drink their tasty beer and give them the dubs down on the way out.
There you go.
So, yeah.
I didn't go like super theme. I guess my theme could be like this beer's from Alaska, and that's one of the few states that will not be involved at all in the Pac-12 realignment. Although WSU, when they won the Apple Cup, took over the in the college football imperialism map, took over Alaska from Washington, and that is on the line. WSU currently has far and away the most land because they have Alaska, as well as a lot of other land throughout the country. But that is on the line against Boise State. WSU could go from leading to 0, lose all their land. It's a zero-sum. If you lose all of it, and so that's on the line, Alaska. So this is Freya from Anchorage Brewing Company. It's got a really cool picture of this kind of demonic wolf on it. It is a Baltic Porter aged 1 year in Woodford Reserve barrels, finished on Madagascar vanilla beans. I don't even remember what year I got this, probably a few years ago. It is delicious.
Yeah, it sounds
I
amazing.
drank it very easily. It was still a lot of vanilla. I know I've had it for a bit, and still tons of vanilla. Great body, like perfect, not too thick. I love a Baltic Porter as a style, which, by the way, is a lager. In case anyone didn't know that, a Baltic Porter is actually a lager style.
Ooh, okay.
It's just the big boy lager style, but it is delicious. Barrel aged beers from Anchorage are just amazing. Typically, really cool, kind of blue art on it with blue wax. Beautiful bottle. Love it. Excellent beer. Freya. It's Frayja. I assume that's Freya. Excellent. Love it. So yeah, and of course, and Old Crimson.
There we go.
Yeah. All right, Jeff. Boise State. This is I think the toughest game of the year. This game is, I think, tougher than Washington in Lumen Field. This is tougher than Texas Tech. This is the toughest game of the year, going down into the blue, facing Boise State. It 7-point underdogs. I think there'll be a lot of Cougs there. There'll be some crimson mixed with the blue, but Boise State has maybe the best running back in the country, and that will be number one on the on Dickert's board,
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah, battle of two elite runners, right? Between
Yes.
Mateer and is it pronounced Janty? Do you know? Like that's the running back, his last name.
I don't know, man.
I do not know. So I'm just gonna,
I was trying to avoid saying his
yeah.
name. What did you
So
do?
I'm gonna go with Janty. If it's wrong, I don't know. I'm sure some Boise State fan will tell me if they made it an hour and 20 minutes into our podcast. It's gonna be a tough one. I do like the idea of I don't know. WSU seems to do pretty okay, like historically under Dickert, when they are really able to key in on one thing. It feels like that's something that they are able to scheme for, and I think that Boise State they are a running team. They want to run. They want to run a lot. Is an explosive running game, and so the hope is that you contain it enough that, again, similar to what we talked about, I think with Texas Tech, I think obviously Janty's a lot more explosive than Taj Brooks was, and Brooks obviously didn't even play in the game, but similar kind of philosophy, I think, where they want to run to pass. But Janty's just so explosive. Really, you're just trying to make sure that he's not, torching you for 20, 25, 30 yards, or taking one to the house for 80 or whatever. So, but if you can do that, the quarterback, you don't look at the quarterback and think, okay, this guy really scares us. Now, maybe that's famous last words, but there's not a lot of evidence there to suggest that if you are able to, put them behind the chains at some point. And I think that's where our defense, really succeeds. And I think the whole bend but don't break thing, I think can be overplayed a little bit. But, I think ideally if you're playing bend but don't break, you will give up some first downs, but eventually you get a team and, you get a negative play. And then all of a sudden, once you get them behind the chains, then you put down the clamps. And that's what we did not do for the first 3 quarters really against San Jose State was, if we'd have a negative play or a 0 play, incomplete pass or whatever, we did not do a good job shutting them down after that through 3 quarters. In the 4th quarter, we did. We got back to doing that. So that's kind of what I'm going to be looking for is when we are able to get, let's say Janty for a 1 yard gain or no gain or a 1 yard loss or whatever, and we put them behind the chains a bit, what happens then? And if we can get our stops at that point, I feel pretty darn good about it. I don't think that I don't think there's any illusion that Boise State's defense is a world beater. And I think that also, we talked about Dickert earlier. I mean, I think he's going to be up for this one too. And I think that he's, I don't want to say he was guilty of looking ahead, but also, you couldn't fault him if he was, looking ahead a little bit to this game. And I think that, you have a bad game, it doesn't go great, you still win. I mean, sometimes teams do that and they're sort of like, oh, whew, hey, we're invincible. I don't get the sense with this team that that's going to be the vibe, right? Like sometimes you have a narrow escape and you're like, oh, well, yeah, okay, we can do that again. I don't think this team's going to be like that. So I think they're going to be up for the game. That doesn't mean they're guaranteed to win, but I do think they're going to be up for it. I do think that they're going to be ready for a fight. And the atmosphere is going to be electric. On our Slack, people have been posting screenshots of ticket prices in Boise. It's expensive. Like to get in the door right now, minimum, I don't know, $250, something like that is like the cheapest seat right now. So, so it's going to be a big deal. The atmosphere is going to be electric. Late night game.
I mean, they're hyped.
It should be fun as hell.
They just got they signed on the Pac-12. It's the first game against. They're fired up to play Wazoo, prove their mettle.
They're fired up to be in the Pac-12.
Yeah, they are. All these teams are, and the teams that didn't get in are pissed. Like the fans
are.
But so I think they're going to be fired up. That's why I really Boise State hasn't turned teams over much this year. I really would love if Mateer could avoid an interception for the first time this year.
Yeah.
Don't get because nothing fires up at gets it rolling more than an interception or something. But yeah, I think it's going to be when they played Wisconsin last year, similar. Multiple even beyond Janty, Sire Gaines, their backup is averaging almost 8 yards a carry. They have another guy that's ran the ball 6 times for 96 yards. They run the ball more than they pass, which is in this day and age is like pretty rare. And I will say that they also have only given up 2 sacks on 101 dropbacks this year. That is a very small number. Obviously, that's less than 2% sack rate, which means they're real tough to sack. I'm sure a lot of that is teams being worried about the run. This is a very good offense that is going to test the defense in a very different way than San Jose State did, and they're going to have to be ready. I'm sure they'll be gearing to stop the run, so it's going to be on the back end to make some plays in one-on-one coverage to avoid those big touchdowns, to be able to stay in the bend don't break, to also probably have to make some tackles at the third level on GT and their running backs, because that's going to happen, to keep those runs to 15 yards and not 60 yards. So yeah, I think the secondary in many ways is going to be very big, and if they get any sacks, that'll be huge. If you can put them, or any negative plays, just put them out of schedule so they don't feel like they can run. That's huge. But is that going to happen? I don't know. We don't really sack the quarterback that much. So I wouldn't bank on that. But yeah, offensively, I mean, Boise State's been giving up points to everyone they played, with the exception of Portland State. But any of the the two FBS teams they played, they've given up points. And obviously we know our offense is good. WC's offense is good. If they're giving up an average of 32, WC could probably score 32. So. Yeah. I think that our offense, it comes down to our offense in what's going to be a hostile and loud atmosphere. Be able to maintain a composure. Honestly, they played a pretty loud atmosphere in Lumen Field. Jeff, you and I were there.
Yeah.
And the however many 40,000 Husky fans were there, got pretty damn loud at times. And obviously we know Lumen Field is very good at projecting that sound. And they handled that really well. Yeah. So this is their
better
first.
Than the Huskies did.
Better than the Huskies did. Again, with the 20,000 Coug fans, they didn't quite handle that quite as well.
The TV announcer being like, it's awful loud in here. I'm like, God damn. Okay, buddy.
No, I was there. It wasn't that loud. I think being disciplined, avoiding turnovers, avoiding penalties, and making plays. John Mateer, make plays. Wayshawn Parker, bust a run. Kyle Williams, roast there. If they win, it's going to be in a shootout. I think.
I think so.
So let's go ahead and do. I'll do it first. I think it's my turn to go first.
All right.
You know what? We picked the Cougs in every game, so I'm not going to not pick the Cougs. I mean, I would have picked us against San Jose State, obviously too.
Yeah.
But we picked the Cougs against UW. We picked the Cougs against Texas Tech. I'm rolling with it again. This is the toughest game of the year. They're 7-point underdogs. They were underdogs against UW. They beat that by about 8 points. Let's go Wazoo 41, Boise State 38.
Yeah, you're close. I was thinking close to that. I think same thing, high scoring, two offenses that are really good, explosive plays all over the place. I'm thinking WSU 38-35. So same spread, just a little lower scoring, but yeah, still a high scoring game.
Dean Janikowski with a big either 1 or 2 field goals. All right.
Yes.
Come on, Dean. You're back. Dean's back.
Yeah,
let's go.
He's back.
Make all your kicks, Dean.
Yes,
gotcha.
Please.
Yes. Got to pick the Cougs to win. So sorry, no Will Ferrell idiots gifts this week. Don't send them if we lose. You don't want to do that.
No,
that's not fun.
You don't want to do that.
Boise State fans, if you're listening, you can send them to us.
I suppose.
Because
we'll be good-natured about it.
Flattered that you listen.
Yes.
Also, if Boise State fans, if you listen, you love it, go ahead and pay the $5 a month. Become a premium subscriber.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Pac-12. Give us money.
Yeah, that's how this works.
Yeah, that's how you have to do it. So yeah, Jeff, we're deep in this. Volleyball just got a win in their first ever West Coast Conference game.
Woo!
Against San Diego. So was it San Diego?
Santa Clara.
Yes. Santa Clara. My bad. They play San Diego next. So that was cool. They are 1-0. 1-0 in the West Coast Conference era. By the way, Gonzaga's 1-10 on the year, so hopefully they can stomp them. Also, Oregon State having a rough year so far as well, 2-8. So yeah, we gotta. Yeah, there's a chance, that there's some. You get to go to the tournament if you win the West Coast Conference. So
yeah, we are actually affiliate members, so we have a chance there.
Yep. Can do that. Soccer has not played in a week. They played number 7 Utah State on the road and drew 0-0.
Yes, very
which
exciting
I guess if you're playing number 7, that's
the
good.
defense was
They-
really good. Like
Yeah.
Utah State's a really high scoring team. So they should be proud of, proud of holding them scoreless and keeping a clean sheet. But the offense was, as we have seen from time to time, a bit painful with its
offense hasn't scored
directness.
two goals since beating Idaho 2-1 on August 25th, and
Yeah.
that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games without scoring more than one goal, and they have been shut out in 2 of those against the 2 ranked teams they've played. They have San Diego coming up on Saturday, and then Pepperdine on Wednesday. They have, after having 9 days off, they're going to have 3 games in 8 days. LMU on the back of that, along with Marymount. So big week. The game against San Diego is in Pullman. So if you're in Pullman this weekend, go check that out. And then volleyball, obviously. So yeah, Jeff, busy week on the Slack. If you find yourself trying to find a place to talk Cougs, and maybe you're on Twitter or somewhere, and people are, you can't do it without Huskies and Ducks and whatever, dive bombing into it and offering their opinions that you do not want to hear. Let me tell you, the best place for this conversation, especially if you remember the old Cougs Center comment section, which was just like legendary, like 10, 12, however long years ago that was. The Podcast versus Everyone premium member Slack has been on fire these last few weeks. It has been a blast.
Yeah, it's been a lot of
great combo. You don't have to worry about anyone being like, well, actually, you guys don't have the ethical high ground or whatever, moral high ground. No,
That's
we
right.
just make fun of those people, and it's a blast. And we just, pretty rational conversation most of the time. A lot of different conversations about a lot of different topics. You can talk about anything Cougs you want. And honestly, if you want to talk about anything, we'll make a channel for you. Find someone else to
pretty
talk about
much.
it. We got 80 plus members in there at this point, and they're active. It is fun. A lot of fun, cool Cougs in there. I love it. It's a good time. And yeah, if you want access to that, premium Slack, $5 a month or $50 a year. Jeff, are we still doing the match? Is the match thing still going?
We'll keep it going. If anybody goes.
All right. So if you sign up, the $50 a year or the $5 a month, we will give $10 to the Cougar Collective. That's right, $10
Yep.
to the Cougar Collective. If you
Yep.
give us that first $5, we'll give 10. And I think they're still matching. I think they extended it. So if we give that 10, that turns into 20 on the match that the Collective is doing. We've had quite a few people sign up for that, which has been really cool. Had a lot of new people in the Slack this week, which has been really fun. PJ Kendall and Michael Preston are in the Slack now, if you like them from Cougs Center, and they've been having fun. They've been very active. I enjoy having them there, so it's a good time. So yeah, check it out. And also, Jeff writes some members only newsletters, including the game day guide on Saturdays, which is a nice look at game preview and all that. So
Yep.
Definitely, I think our members are finding the $5 a month, just even for the Slack access, has been a lot of fun. I have a lot of fun at the $0 a month, but I probably would pay $5.
I think so. Hopefully, well, I guess I would say that like I think the greatest sense of the value that's being provided is we have literally only ever had one person downgrade from the subscription. So they had it and then they stopped their subscription, but then that person restarted their subscription like a couple weeks ago. So apparently,
Literally anyone who's ever started a premium subscription with Podcast versus Everyone is still a premium
Still going.
member. They are
Still
still handing out, forking out that money because it is a blast. Like they literally it's like the best Coug chat I've had as probably ever. Like it's so fun.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. So check that out if you like talking to Cougs on Slack. It's a good time.
Yeah.
Just be wary of your work productivity. You got to be smart about how to handle it.
Yeah. Still got to do your job.
Especially on conference realignment days. So check that out. If you want to follow Jeff and I, I'm at the Craig Powers on Twitter. Jeff is at Pod versus Everyone on Twitter. I'm at Craig W. Powers on Instagram. Jeff is at Noose Coug, Nuss Coug. I post some stuff usually when I'm going to games and stuff. I'll post Coug stuff on Instagram. And I think the next game I'll go to, I'm missing Hawaii. Will be because I'm going to When We're Young Festival in Vegas, but then I will be at the San Diego State game. So also, if you're going to that, say hi to me. So there'll be lots of pictures of me from that. Jeff, I guess with all that, all that's left to say is go fucking Cougs.
Go fucking Cougs, Craig. Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter.
Get vaccinated.
Do it.
Support a union, especially people on strike at Boeing right now.